In this video, we'll review common questions employers might ask about your visa status and how to answer them. Before we begin, please note that this video is for general information purposes only and does not constitute legal advice. For assistance with your F1 or J1 work authorization, contact Duke Visa Services. For support with employment-based immigration options, consult with a licensed attorney. Let's get started. When applying for jobs or internships in the U.S., you might get questions like this. Are you legally authorized to work in the United States? Will you now or in the future require employment visa sponsorship? Though simple, these questions can be difficult to answer. You might not know if you'll need visa sponsorship in the future. You may also wonder whether employers will hire you if you do need sponsorship. To answer these questions, it helps to understand two key terms: work authorization and visa sponsorship.
Work authorization is a status that allows you to legally work in a country. Your student visa, like F1 or J1, might give you work authorization in the U.S. for a limited time. For example, F1 students with OPT or CPT and J1 students with academic training, AT, have work authorization in the U.S. If you have work authorization through your student visa, many employers can hire you without needing to sponsor you, as long as you meet a few basic requirements. Visa sponsorship is when an employer helps you get long-term work authorization through an employment-based visa, like an H-1B. This process can be costly and time-consuming for employers. When you apply for jobs and meet with employers, it is important to know the difference. Some employers are open to sponsoring visas, while others may only hire you during your F1 or J1 work authorization period. There are also employers who refuse to hire F1 or J1 students at all. Although you can't change an employer's hiring policies, knowing your work authorization status and visa needs will allow you to advocate for yourself and avoid miscommunications. Now, let's look at questions employers commonly ask and how to answer them.
Question: Are you legally authorized to work in the United States?
Answer: yes. If you have work authorization through your student visa, you can work in the U.S.
Question: Are you authorized to work in the U.S. without restriction?
Answer: no. As a student visa holder, there are limits on where, how, and when you can work.
Question: Will you now or in the future require employment visa sponsorship?
Answer: yes. If you are on a student visa, you'll need employment visa sponsorship once your work authorization expires. Many students answer no to this question because they have work authorization. The problem with this approach is that most employers who ask this question want to know if you'll need visa sponsorship to work with them after your work authorization period ends. Even if you only plan to work with the employer while you have work authorization on your student visa, answering no might cause confusion during the hiring process. Many employers have limited knowledge of visa sponsorship and will not want to discover new information about your visa status late in the hiring process. It's important to be clear about your long-term needs to maintain a positive relationship with an employer, rather than risk potential misunderstandings later. If you don't need sponsorship from an employer because you have another type of visa or green card, it's okay to answer no, but only if you're certain you will not need sponsorship in the future. Whenever possible, provide more detail about your situation. Sometimes you'll have the opportunity to add information about your work authorization in the job application. If not, it is common to discuss your situation during the interview process, usually before you receive a job offer. Employers might not be informed about work authorization and visa processes, so it can be helpful to explain your current work authorization, how long it lasts, and your future plans. Here are some examples of effective ways to disclose your visa status to an employer.
An F1 student applying for an internship might say this.
I am currently in F1 student status. I'm authorized to work in this internship full-time over the summer through the Curricular Practical Training CPT program. There is no additional cost to hiring me since I have access to CPT.
An F1 student with access to STEM OPT applying for a full-time job might say this.
I am currently in F1 student status. I have access to 3 years of work authorization on my F1 visa through optional practical training, OPT, and the STEM OPT extension. After that time, I will likely need sponsorship for another immigration status, such as the H-1B visa. I am willing to be flexible and explore multiple pathways to remain in the U.S. after my STEM OPT expires. In the meantime, I'm eager to bring my skills to your organization and further grow professionally.
An F1 student applying for short-term employment might say this.
I am currently in F1 student status. I'm authorized to work full-time for up to 1 year on my F1 visa through optional practical training, OPT. After that time, I plan to return to graduate school and therefore will not require visa sponsorship. I'm excited for the opportunity to contribute to your organization and continue developing my skill set during my year of OPT.
A J1 student applying for an internship might say this.
I am currently in J1 student status. I'm authorized to work in this internship for X amount of months through the Academic Training AT program. There is no additional cost to hiring me since I have access to AT.
Finally, let's review some common questions or concerns you might hear from employers and how you can respond to them effectively. Employer: I'm not sure whether we hire international students.
Student: Thank you for letting me know. Would it be possible for you to verify this with your HR department? Here's some information that explains the type of work authorization I have access to through Duke. You can then share Interstride's U.S. Employer's Guide to Hiring International Students and a link to Duke Visa Services website.
Employer: Sorry, we don't sponsor international students for internships.
Student: Thank you for sharing this information with me. I have access to work authorization through my student visa, which would allow me to complete an internship at no additional cost to your organization. With that in mind, would you be open to considering my internship application?
Employer: What does my company need to do to hire you?
How you answer this question will depend on the type of work authorization you have. If you are on an F1 visa, you can share Interstride's U.S. Employer's Guide to Hiring International Students. Here are some responses you may consider.
If you are using CPT, you might say this.
Applying for CPT is my responsibility. In order to complete my application through Duke, I will require an employment offer letter, and you will receive a request to complete an e-recommendation form that confirms my eligibility for this training experience.
If you are using OPT or STEM OPT, you might say this.
Applying for OPT is entirely my responsibility. Your company will need to verify my employment authorization document, EAD, in order for me to begin working. In order to extend my employment with STEM OPT, there are a few additional requirements. Your company will need to help me complete a detailed training plan, Form I-983. Your company will also need to be enrolled in E-Verify. Finally, you will need to verify my employment status periodically and assist me with required evaluations.
If you are using AT, you might say this.
Applying for AT is my responsibility. In order to apply, I will need a letter from your company that confirms my internship offer and includes important information, such as a job title, a brief description of the internship or training program, the dates and location of the employment, the number of hours per week, my supervisor's information, and salary information.
Don't let these types of questions discourage you. Many employers in the U.S. are interested in hiring international students and are open to sponsoring visas. And some employers who have not previously sponsored visas might be open to giving it a try. Being ready to answer these questions will help you navigate your job or internship search with confidence. Thank you for watching, and good luck with your job and internship search.